I stared at Ethan, the new guy from Blue Peak Consulting, his charming smile already irking me. Riley. So, you're the new golden boy from Blue Peak? He chuckled, unfazed. Something like that. And you are? The person who's going to make sure you don't mess everything up. I shot back, my tone clipped. Dovetail Solutions prided itself on its family-like atmosphere, but with our recent merger with Blue Peak, I knew there'd be friction. Ethan's breezy confidence set my teeth on edge. This place was my home turf. Over the next few months, Ethan and I worked closely on several high-stakes projects. His broad, innovative ideas often clashed with my meticulous, detail-oriented approach. Heated discussions turned into long nights poring over reports, fueled by greasy takeout and shared stories of our upbringings. Gradually, begrudging respect seeped in. Ethan's charisma was undeniable, and I found myself drawn to his relentless optimism. Our professional partnership evolved into something deeper, a bond forged through the trenches of corporate warfare. 2 years later, we married in a small, intimate ceremony. As my career soared and I became a senior director, Ethan remained a manager. Tension simmered beneath the surface. People see me, and they see your husband, not Ethan the manager, just Mr. Riley. He grumbled one night over takeout containers littering our living room. I squeezed his hand, trying to reassure him. This is our success, Ethan. We're a team, remember? But cracks were already forming in our once unshakable partnership. I should have seen the signs earlier, but I was too blinded by Ethan's charm. The late nights at the office took a toll, not just on our workload, but on our relationship. We grew closer, sharing stories over greasy burgers and fries, laughing at inside jokes no one else understood. You know, you're not so bad, Riley, Ethan said one night. His tie loosened as we pored over financial projections. For someone so uptight, that is. I rolled my eyes, trying to hide my smile. And you're not as insufferable as I thought. That was our dynamic, constant back and forth, challenging each other at every turn. But there was an undeniable chemistry, a spark that kept us going late into the night, but fueled by ambition and maybe something more. It wasn't until our first major account review that the cracks began to show. Ethan stumbled through his portion of the presentation, glossing over crucial details I'd drilled into him. If I may, I interjected smoothly, our strategy also includes adaptive risk management and real-time analytics to mitigate. You just can't resist taking over, can you? Ethan snapped, his cheeks flushed. I recoiled, stunned by his outburst in front of the client. But I powered through, deftly addressing their concerns while subtly undermining Ethan's credibility. After that day, something shifted between us. The late nights grew tenser, our banter edgier. I started noticing little things, assignments being reassigned without my knowledge, my performance metrics dipping inexplicably. Ethan, why is our workload so uneven lately? I asked one evening as we worked late, yet again. It's like you're offloading everything onto me. He shrugged, not meeting my gaze. We're a team, right? What's mine is yours. But I knew there was more to it, so I started digging, combing through reports and client feedback. And what I found made my blood run cold. A systematic pattern of my top clients being redirected to Ethan's accounts. The evidence was damning, emails with my forged signature, spreadsheets manipulated to boost his numbers at my expense. I confronted him, anger and hurt swirling within me. Explain this, I demanded, slamming the stack of documents on his desk. Why are my clients suddenly being assigned to your team without my consent? Ethan's face paled, but he quickly regained his composure. You're imagining things, Riley. Maybe you just can't keep up. His words cut deep, but I was done playing games. I gathered every shred of proof, determined to expose his deceit once and for all. If Ethan wanted to play dirty, I'd make sure he paid the price. Despite the mounting evidence of Ethan's betrayal, I tried to salvage our relationship. Maybe it was denial or foolish hope that the man I'd fallen for was still in there somewhere. But I refused to give up without a fight. We went to counseling, where I laid everything out, the forged documents, the reassigned clients, the plummeting metrics. Ethan admitted to feeling overshadowed by my success, but swore it was a momentary lapse in judgment. I'm so sorry, Riley, he said, his eyes brimming with tears. You have to believe me. It'll never happen again. Against my better judgment, I wanted to trust him. We renewed our vows in a small ceremony, promising to rebuild our partnership on a foundation of honesty and mutual respect. For a while, things seemed better. Ethan was present, attentive, and his performance improved. I started to let my guard down, allowing myself to hope we'd make it through this storm stronger than ever. Then the unthinkable happened. I was passed over for a senior director role I'd been grooming for. Instead, the position went to Ethan, who was promoted to VP of Operations. How could they do this? I ranted to my best friend Lila over glasses of wine. After everything Ethan pulled, he gets rewarded? Lila squeezed my hand. I'm so sorry, Rye, but you know this place. Connections mean everything. Ethan probably just has the right allies. I wanted to believe it was just corporate politics at play. But deep down, I knew the truth. Ethan had sabotaged me again, this time more thoroughly than ever. The final straw came during a make-or-break presentation for a lucrative international client. I'd prepped Ethan extensively, drilling him on every possible scenario. But when the tough questions came, he faltered, stumbling over basic details. If I may, I interjected smoothly, shooting him a pointed look. Our adaptive analytics platform is designed to provide real-time insights, mitigating risks, and... Enough, Riley, Ethan exploded, his face flushed with rage. I've got this. But it was clear to everyone in that room that he didn't. The client rep, Jessica Marshall, leveled a withering gaze at him. Mr. Bennett, it seems you're struggling with the fundamentals here. Perhaps we should reconvene when you're better prepared. As they filed out, Ethan turned on me, his eyes blazing with fury. Happy now? You just couldn't let me have this one moment, could you? I met his glare, my own anger simmering. You brought this on yourself, Ethan. I tried to help you, but you were too arrogant and insecure to listen. His face contorted with rage, and for a split second, I wondered if he might strike me. But he just shook his head in disgust and stormed out, leaving me alone to clean up his mess once again. After the disastrous presentation, things only got worse between Ethan and me. We could barely be in the same room without tensions flaring. What little remained of our marriage had withered, poisoned by resentment and mistrust. But I refused to back down at work. I poured myself into my projects, determined to prove my worth and reclaim the success Ethan had tried to steal from me. Late nights at the office became the norm as I immersed myself in analytics reports and client strategy sessions. Lila noticed the strain immediately. "Ree, you look like hell. When's the last time you got a decent night's sleep?" I waved her off, chugging another venti latte. "I'm fine, just working hard to get back on track." Her brow furrowed with concern. "Is this about Ethan's promotion? Because you know that was a total sham, right?" I forced a tight smile. "Don't worry about me. I've got this under control." But I didn't have it under control. Not at all. No matter how hard I worked, how many extra hours I put in, my performance metrics kept plummeting. Crucial clients and high-profile projects were being systematically reassigned to Ethan's team without my knowledge. One night, as I burned the midnight oil updating financial models, an email notification pinged on my laptop. It was from HR, approving the transfer of the Zephyr Technologies account, one of my biggest clients, to Ethan's portfolio. White-hot fury coursed through me as I realized the truth. Ethan was undermining me again, sabotaging my career in his relentless pursuit of success. This time, he wasn't just forging documents, he was manipulating the entire system. I stormed into his office, slamming the damning email printout on his desk. "Care to explain this?" I seethed, struggling to keep my voice steady. Ethan had the audacity to feign innocence. "Explain what? It's just a routine account transfer, Riley. No need to overreact." "Don't play dumb with me," I exploded. "You've been systematically stripping me of my clients and workload to make yourself look good." Just like before. For a split second, the masks slipped, and I saw the ugly truth in his eyes. The bitterness, the resentment, the twisted sense of entitlement that drove his actions. But just as quickly it was gone, replaced by that smarmy grin I'd once found charming. "You're just paranoid, babe. Maybe if you pulled your weight a little more, you wouldn't feel so threatened." His words hit like a physical blow, leaving me reeling. How could the man I'd loved, the partner I'd built a life with, treat me with such callous cruelty? I wanted to scream, to hurl every vile insult I could muster. But I knew that would only give him more ammunition. So, with a Herculean effort, I reined in my fury and met his gaze with steely resolve. This isn't over, Ethan. Not by a long shot. Turning on my heel, I stormed out, my mind already whirring with how to expose his deceit once and for all. He wanted to play dirty? Fine, I'd make sure he paid the ultimate price. With Ethan's betrayal laid bare, I knew I had to act quickly before he buried me completely. I gathered every shred of evidence I could find, the forged emails, the manipulated client reports, the discrepancies in project assignments. It was all there, a damning paper trail of his deceit. Lila was my rock through it all, helping me compile the files and offering a sympathetic ear when the weight of Ethan's actions threatened to crush me. "That bastard," she seethed as we pored over the documents late one night. "I can't believe he'd stoop this low." I shook my head, fighting back tears of rage and humiliation. Believe it, this is who he really is. A selfish, insecure coward who'll do whatever it takes to get ahead. With the proof in hand, I requested an urgent meeting with Mr. Daniels, our CEO. He was a no-nonsense leader who valued integrity above all else. Surely he'd see Ethan for the snake he truly was. The day of the meeting, I barely slept, running through my presentation over and over. I had to get this right. My entire career was on the line. When I finally stood before Mr. Daniels, the weight of the moment nearly crushed me, but I pushed through, methodically laying out the evidence, pointing out each discrepancy, each forged signature, each reassigned client that had crippled my performance. To his credit, Mr. Daniels listened intently, his expression growing more grave with every revelation. When I finally finished, he leveled his piercing gaze at me. "Miss Bennett, these are extremely serious allegations. Do you have proof to substantiate your claims?" Without a word, I slid the thick file across his desk. He flipped through it, his frown deepening. Just then, the door opened, and Ethan strode in, that trademark smirk plastered across his face. "Sorry I'm late, everyone. What did I miss?" Mr. Daniels fixed him with an icy stare. "Mr. Bennett, can you explain why these client transfers and project reassignments were made without proper authorization?" For a split second, Ethan's mask slipped, revealing the panic simmering beneath. But he quickly regained his composure, letting out a nervous chuckle. "This has to be some kind of mistake, sir. I would never." "No mistake," I cut him off, unable to contain my fury any longer. "You've been sabotaging me for months, undermining my work, forging my signatures, all to make yourself look better. And here's the proof." I shoved the file towards him, daring him to deny the mountain of evidence staring him in the face. Ethan paled as he flipped through the documents, his hands trembling. Mr. Daniels slammed his palm on the desk, making us both jump. "Enough of this. Mr. Bennett, you're suspended pending a full investigation. And if these allegations prove true, you'll be terminated immediately. Is that clear?" Ethan opened his mouth, but no words came out. He simply nodded, his eyes downcast in defeat. As he slunk out of the office, I finally allowed myself a small, grim smile. The tides had turned, and Ethan was about to learn a brutal lesson about the price of betrayal. With Ethan suspended pending investigation, I thought I'd finally get some relief. But the storm was far from over. If anything, it was just the calm before the real tempest hit. Despite the damning evidence against him, Ethan still clung to his delusions of grandeur. He swanned around the office like nothing had happened, shooting me smug grins whenever our paths crossed. "Don't get too comfortable, Riley," he sneered one day as we passed in the hallway. "This is just a minor setback." I fought the urge to slap that arrogant smirk right off his face. "Keep telling yourself that, Ethan. The truth always comes out in the end." His eyes narrowed, but he didn't respond, just brushed past me with that infuriating swagger of his. I could practically feel his disdain radiating off him in waves. A part of me hoped he was right, that this was all just a big misunderstanding, and the man I'd once loved was still in there somewhere. But the larger, more pragmatic part knew better. Ethan was rotten to the core, a malignant narcissist who saw me as nothing more than an obstacle to be crushed. The real test came a few weeks later when we were scheduled to pitch a major international client. It was a make-or-break deal, one that could secure our firm's future for years to come. Naturally, Ethan insisted on leading the presentation, despite being under investigation. "This is my account, Riley," he said, puffing out his chest. "I've been prepping the team for months. You'd only get in the way." I wanted to protest, to point out how he'd fumbled the last major client meeting. But Mr. Daniels had made it clear. We needed to put on a united front, at least until the investigation concluded. So I gritted my teeth and let Ethan take the lead, prepping him extensively on every possible scenario and objection. Maybe, just maybe, he'd finally get it right this time. The day of the presentation, I could sense the tension as soon as we entered the conference room. Jessica Marshall, the no-nonsense client rep who had witnessed Ethan's meltdown before, eyed him warily from across the table. For the first half hour, Ethan stuck to the script, breezing through the high-level concepts and projections. But then, the tough questions started rolling in, the kinds that required deep technical knowledge and strategic thinking. And just like before, Ethan crumbled under the pressure. So how exactly would your risk mitigation protocols adapt to fluctuations in the Asian markets? Jessica pressed, her eyes boring into him. Ethan stammered, his carefully rehearsed facade cracking. Well, you see, our platform utilizes cutting-edge algorithms too. He trailed off, his eyes darting around the room in desperation. I could see the client's interest waning by the second. Enough was enough. I wasn't about to let this arrogant fool torpedo the company I'd poured my life into. Squaring my shoulders, I leaned forward. If I may, I interjected smoothly. Our adaptive risk analytics employ real-time data modeling to anticipate market fluctuations and dynamically adjust our mitigation strategies accordingly. I laid it all out, the robust testing protocols, the seamless integration with our clients' existing systems, the proven results from our pilot programs. With each point, I could see Jessica's skepticism melting away, replaced by keen interest. By the time I'd finished, Ethan looked like he'd been hit by a truck. His face was beet red, his jaw clenched so tightly I thought his teeth might shatter. As we filed out, he grabbed my arm in a vice-like grip, his eyes burning with impotent rage. "You just couldn't let me have this one moment, could you?" he hissed. "You had to swoop in and undermine me in front of everyone." I met his glare with stony resolve. "I was cleaning up your mess, Ethan. Again. Maybe if you'd actually listened during our prep session instead of coasting on blind arrogance, you could have handled those questions yourself." His grip tightened until it was nearly unbearable. For a split second, I wondered if he might hit me. But then his whole body seemed to deflate, the anger replaced by something far more chilling, cold, bitter hatred. Releasing my arm with a contemptuous shove, he turned and stormed off, leaving me to pick up the shattered pieces of his failure once more. After the disastrous client meeting, Ethan went into full meltdown mode. He ranted and raged to anyone who would listen, spinning wild tales about how I'd conspired against him, sabotaging his efforts at every turn. "She's been out to get me from the start," he'd snarl, spit flying from his lips. Couldn't stand the fact that I was more talented, more qualified for those big roles. His delusions knew no bounds. I was the one who'd built my career from the ground up, through blood, sweat, and tears. Not him. He was just a smooth-talking con man who'd schemed and cheated his way to the top, cutting anyone down who got in his way. But for all his bluster, the truth was rapidly catching up to him. Mr. Daniels had tasked an internal audit team to comb through our records, and the evidence they uncovered was utterly damning. Forged contracts, manipulated invoices, diverted client accounts, the extent of Ethan's deceit knew no bounds. He'd orchestrated an elaborate web of lies and misdirection, all to inflate his own performance at my expense. When Mr. Daniels called us into his office, I could tell he already knew the score. His face was grave, his eyes shining with a mixture of anger and disappointment. "Mr. Bennett, Miss Riley," he began, his voice heavy. "The findings from the internal audit are disturbing, to say the least." He slid a thick file across the desk, the meticulously compiled paper trail of Ethan's transgressions. My heart pounded as I flipped through the documents, each one more shocking than the last. Ethan, however, remained infuriatingly smug. "With all due respect, sir, this is clearly a witch hunt orchestrated by my bitter ex-wife. I've been nothing but a model employee." "Save it," Mr. Daniels cut him off, his tone laced with disgust. "The evidence speaks for itself. Forged signatures, falsified reports, illicit client transfers. You've violated every ethical code this company stands for." Ethan opened his mouth, but Mr. Daniels held up a hand, silencing him. "I don't want to hear another word out of you. You're terminated, effective immediately. Clear out your desk and turn in your credentials." For a moment, Ethan looked like he might argue. But one glance at the CEO's steely expression seemed to deflate him. He simply nodded, shoulders slumped in defeat. As he shuffled out, I couldn't help but feel a pang of sadness amidst the overwhelming sense of vindication. This man, this pathetic, broken shell of a human being, had once been my partner, my best friend. Where had it all gone so wrong? Mr. Daniels must have sensed my turmoil, because he cleared his throat gently. Miss Riley, I can't begin to express how disappointed I am in Mr. Bennett's actions. But I want you to know, we value your integrity and commitment to this company above all else. He slid another document across the desk, a contract promoting me to VP of Operations, Ethan's former role. It's time for a fresh start, a renewed commitment to the principles that made Dovetail great. I can think of no one better to lead that charge than you. Tears stung my eyes as I accepted the contract, overcome with a heady mix of pride, relief, and sheer exhaustion. It was finally over. The lies, the betrayal, the constant battle to prove my worth. I'd won. But as I inked my name on that crisp new contract, I couldn't help but wonder at what cost that victory had come. In the aftermath of Ethan's spectacular downfall, I thought I'd finally find some sense of closure, of hard-won peace. But the wounds he'd inflicted ran deeper than I could have imagined. As I settled into my new role as VP of Operations, reorganizing teams and redoubling our commitment to ethics, the specters of his betrayal haunted me at every turn. I'd catch whispers in the hallway, colleagues shooting me furtive glances laced with pity and judgment. Did you hear what that bastard did to Riley? I always knew there was something off about him. It was like an endless drone in the back of my mind, a constant reminder of the humiliation I'd endured at the hands of the man I'd once loved. Ethan, for his part, maintained a defiant front in the face of his spectacular downfall. He refused to acknowledge the depths of his deceit, instead painting himself as the victim of some grand conspiracy. Riley's always been threatened by my talent. He'd sneer whenever I saw him clearing out his belongings. She'll do anything to tear me down and make herself look good. I wanted to scream, to hurl every vile insult I could muster at his smug, delusional face. But I knew it would only give him more ammunition, more fuel for his twisted martyr complex. So I maintained a stoic silence, refusing to dignify his ranting with a response. Let him live in his pathetic fantasies. I had a company to rebuild. With Ethan finally banished, I doubled down on restructuring our operations, emphasizing transparency and accountability above all else. Gone were the shady backroom deals and cronyism that had enabled his rise to power. One by one, I assembled a new leadership team comprised of talented, principled individuals committed to restoring Dovetail's former glory. It was grueling work, long hours spent poring over organizational charts and performance metrics. Lila was my rock through it all, celebrating each minor victory with takeout and cheap wine in my makeshift office bedroom. "You're doing amazing, Rye," she'd say, squeezing my hand. "This place was a cesspool before, but you're making it something to be proud of again." Her words buoyed me through the toughest days, when cynicism and self-doubt threatened to drag me under. This was about more than just professional redemption. It was about reclaiming the part of myself I'd nearly lost to Ethan's poisonous influence. Of course, there was still the matter of my personal life to confront. Ethan and I had been more than just colleagues. We'd built a life, a future together that now lay in ashes. As the dust settled and the raw fury subsided, I knew we'd have to face the inevitable. It was a crisp fall evening when I requested that final meeting, the one I'd been dreading for months. Ethan swept into the sterile conference room, his cockiness dimmed but that infuriating smirk still firmly in place. Well, if it isn't the conquering hero herself," he sneered as I entered. "To what do I owe this pleasure, Miss VP?" I leveled my gaze at him, mustering every ounce of strength and composure. "Ethan, this isn't just about work, it's about us. What's left of us, anyway?" His bravado faltered, just for a moment, before the mask slipped back into place. "Oh, I see. You just couldn't resist one last chance to rub my face in your victory, could you?" I shook my head, suddenly bone-weary from the weight of it all. "You still don't get it, do you?" I said softly. "This was never about winning or losing. It was about trust, Ethan, and after everything you've done, that trust is broken beyond repair." For a fleeting instant, I saw a flicker of something in his eyes, regret, maybe, or a glimmer of the man I'd once adored peeking through the ruins, but it was gone in a blink, smothered by that impenetrable veil of ego and denial. "Is that really what you think?" he muttered, unable to meet my gaze. "You know what? Don't answer that." With that, he turned and left, disappearing from my life as abruptly as he'd entered it all those years ago. And this time, I knew there would be no resurrection of the past, no rekindling of the love that had burned so bright before his betrayal snuffed it out. It was over, truly and finally over. And as I watched Ethan's retreating form, I felt an unexpected wave of sadness wash over me, not for what we'd lost, but for the man he could have been, the partner he should have been. But those regrets belonged to the past now. I had a future to build, one founded on the hard-won lessons born from his lies and manipulations. As I stepped back into the bustle of the office, my team's voices and laughter echoing through the halls, I felt a surge of pride and renewed purpose. This was my path, my redemption story, and I wasn't about to let Ethan Bennett's ghosts haunt me any longer.